Hello again and welcome. I hope everybody's keeping well in these difficult times that we're having to endure. I'm going to speak today on a well-known verse in the Bible, a verse that everybody knows. This is Revelation 3 verse 20. Jesus said, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hears my voice and open the door, I will come in and I will sup with him and he with me." There's some very important parts in this message. Number one, I'm going to the end of the verse. I will sup with him and he with me. In those days, the supper time was the time when they had the main meal, when the doors were locked and there was in the privacy of their own home with the family or maybe family and friends, and it was an intimate time. And Jesus wants to be with us in these intimate times. He says, I stand at the door and knock. Now he's speaking to the church at Laodicea, however you pronounce it. But he's also speaking to each individual believer. He says, I stand at the door and knock. What does that mean? It means he's outside. And he should be inside the church. He should be the first person in that church. He should always be in that church. And as individuals, he's knocking on our hearts. Are we letting him in or are we keeping him out? The church he talks about was a rich church. Only God wasn't present in that church because the people in the church were comfortable in the worldly assets that they had. They were comfortable, they were well off, they didn't need God, or so they thought. But God knocks at the door. Now the next bit, if any man hears me. Just think about that. If any man hears me. Now come on. If we're Christians, if we mean what we say, then that door should always be open. Should always be open to Jesus, to hear him, to listen, and to obey what he says. The door of your heart should always be open to Jesus and to God. It's easy to ignore God in the world that we live in. There are worldly comforts that everybody has a need for, or so they think. But it isn't a need, it's a want. They want an easy life. Well, if you're a Christian, if you're a born-again Christian, then you will know that no other book in the world has been analysed, scrutinised, taken apart than the Bible has in over 2,000 years. I know we didn't have it when Jesus was about, but the early church had the Bible. But I mean, obviously they already had the Old Testament. I'm talking about the New Testament now. But we've got to be accessible all the time to Jesus. And we don't want to be one of those who don't hear his voice. But the Bible, as I say, has been torn apart, analysed for a long, long time. And up to now, nobody has ever found in the Bible where it says it's easy to be a Christian. In fact, it's the opposite. Jesus said we will have our trials and our tribulations, but take heart because he has overcome the world. And he wants us to be overcomers. And if you think about it, we can't be overcomers if we have nothing to overcome. The simple fact. I've often said to people, if there's a problem in front of you, it looks like a big mountain, and you think, how will I get over this? How will I manage with this problem? How will I get through it? How will I manage? But once that's dealt with, and you're on the other side of that problem, if you look back, you'll see that the big mountain that you thought was there was a little molehill behind you. You got through it. You got over it. You managed with Jesus. Not on your own, with Jesus. The next problem comes along, and you see this big mountain in front. Why don't we learn, and I'm including myself in this, why don't we learn that that mountain in front of us is a molehill, and that with Jesus we will get through it? Without him we might not. This is why we need to be accessible. That door should always be open for God. And he wants to come in at our most intimate times. When we pray, he says, lock yourself in a cupboard or anywhere where you can be candid and private and speak to God with an open heart. He wants to be with us all the time. He knows what we're going through. He knows our troubles. So why don't we let him take them off us? We might have a life where we're feeling guilty about our past, but God can take that guilt away. If you let Jesus into your life, if you truly let him in, he will give you that peace that can't be described. I've experienced this a few times, well, a number of times, but that peace is so vital to Christians. So that verse in the Bible, I stand at the door and knock. What an indictment that is to the church. Because the church don't let him in. And a lot of modern churches today, and I include the established churches in this, they just want an easy ride. That's the church and the ministers. They don't want to annoy people. They don't want to upset people. And they don't want any reduced numbers in the pews, so they've got to keep the people happy. So what they do, they take the good things out of the Bible, all the nice things, and they wrap them up in a nice message, and that's what they present. Christianity is a bed of roses, but it isn't. It's hard. Very hard indeed. And if you're a new Christian, what you might find is that you are under spiritual attack more than you was before. And that is because the devil doesn't mind you going to church. He doesn't mind you being a Christian, as long as you don't do anything with it. But once you start being active for God, in the army of God, and you want to go and spread the word, then the devil sees you as a threat. And if he sees you as a threat, he will attack you. And as a new Christian, that could be daunting. But let me tell you this. If the devil comes and sits on your shoulder and whispers in your ear, "You're too weak for this. You'll never survive the storm. You've got no chance. Who do you think you are?" Just turn and look him in the eye and say, "I am the storm," and flick him off your shoulder back in the hole he came from. Because it is written that if you would deny the devil, he will flee from you. I can't remember exactly where that is, I'll look it up. But resist the devil and he will flee from you. Simple. We can resist the devil, but we must keep that door open. That's the message for today. Keep your heart open for Jesus. He wants to come in. He wants to sup with you in that most intimate time. He wants to be intimate with you. Every one of us, every believer, every Christian should understand the meaning behind that verse. I hope you've got something out of this, and I hope to see you next time. Until then, God bless.